the Awesemo Fantasy Football Show presented by FFPC, going live for the second time this week, breaking down all of the fantasy relevant news around the league and shit. We have plenty of it. I'm Dave Loughran over on the Twitters at Laffy_D. Give me a follow. And while you're at it, hit up my boy Nick Lepri. You know him as Notorious Fantasy at Notorious FNTSY. It's FNTSY, right? I get that right?
Yeah, Notorious Fantasy was taken or was too long, one or the other. So
all right, well, FNTSY, just want to be sure here. Hit him up. Dude's got a lot of followers on YouTube, Notorious Fantasy channel, great channel, but we got to get those follower count up on Twitter for sure. So while you're at it, make sure to do that. But we got a ton to talk about today, Nick, and it feels good that we're finally there. And this season's odder than others in that outside of three teams, every other team is reporting to camp today, Tuesday, July 27th. And we already had a lot of news from Cam Akers to Michael Thomas. But the biggest piece of news, and we're going to get into all of this, is Aaron Rodgers reporting to camp. That's a huge. We've been waiting on that for a while. It started to get annoying.
Yeah, honestly, it did. It was like there was just a battle for months during the draft. That was the whole news. No one even cared about the draft at that point. There's so much talk about it. And now we finally reached the point where he's going to sign that deal. The question is, will he leave after this year? Probably. But who really cares about that if we're talking about fantasy for just this season?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. And I think it's funny because we're going to get into the Instagram, the cryptic messages. And I think actually the other day, before we had any confirmation on what was going on, you actually nailed it. And a lot of people had a similar thought as well. But the Instagram post between him and Devonta Adams simultaneously tweeting out or posting a picture of Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen from the Last Dance, essentially saying that this is the last dance. This is the last year together. But what really made me believe that after yesterday, believe that's what it meant. You get the news from Schefter because you can't really trust Ian Rappaport. He's burned us DFS players too many times. You look back and you say, okay, you know what? Later last week, Devonta Adams and the Packers actually called off those long-term extension negotiations right at the same time, a few days before Rodgers decides that he's probably going to show up and be there for one more year. So I guess this is the last chance to do it.
Yeah, and then Aaron Jones also posted a picture of that like janitor who did the Jordan shrug in the Last Dance, so implying that this really is the last go at it. It appears that Derek Carr wants Devonta Adams in Las Vegas, but obviously that's not going to happen this season. It's crazy that all of this stuff comes to a close right now. I honestly thought that we'd be here talking about this for the next month, and then like right before the season actually started, then there would be news on what is happening with Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, Derek Carr wants Devonta Adams. I want a fleet of Lamborghinis in my garage, Nick, but we can't all have what we want. Like, everybody wants Devonta Adams. Although I do think if you had Derek Carr with Devonta Adams and then Henry Ruggs being able to be somebody that, I mean, they reached on him. Let's not lie. Like, do you agree that the Raiders, for the 18th time in a row, reached on a player in the first round than Henry Ruggs? I'm not saying he's not going to be good this year, but the first wide receiver off the board last year seems like a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, it does, especially when you look at it like CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, even Jerry Jeudy, who struggled with drops last year, probably would have been the correct pick. I mean, Jerry Jeudy was clearly the best wide receiver in that class, and he obviously fell because the Raiders just made a stupid move, like, you know, John Gruden's prone to do at this point.
I mean, as an Eagles fan, we drafted Jalen Rhaegar over Justin Jefferson, who went immediately after Rhaegar. You can't win them all, I guess. And if you're the Eagles and the Raiders, you generally speaking can't win any of them. But maybe Devonta Smith will be in business. All I know is this. Huge news out of Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers shows up looking like a boss with those wild glasses, a pretty sick shirt from The Office. If you don't watch The Office, I don't know what to tell you. And he showed up like it was ready. He was ready to do business. I'm curious, though, before we get into actual implications of this from a fantasy standpoint, do you think there's going to be a lot of narrative-based betting on the Green Bay Packers to win the Super Bowl this year? And full disclosure, I bet the Packers to win the Super Bowl last year, really thought they'd get by Tampa Bay, but once again, they failed to come through.
Yeah, there probably will be. To be honest with you, there's no way I would take them to win the Super Bowl. They're just a team that makes the NFC Championship game and then probably chokes again. The last dance to the NFC Championship to lose again probably is what this will be. At this point, all the news about all of this, it's so funny at the end of the year because everything is all based upon the players. It's, oh, look how great Rodgers is, look how great Adams is. And in reality, it's just the team can never get it done. So I would personally never place a bet on them, but people will. Obviously, the Green Bay Packers are a very public team as they're owned by a bunch of people in Wisconsin.
They just can't get there. It's amazing that no matter what, he's got one ring though, right? He has one ring.
Yeah, one Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, one ring. So it's better than nothing. But I look at this Packers team now and I see a massive shakeup because it doesn't just influence obviously Rodgers or Devonta Adams or Aaron Jones, but it influences the peripheral guys as well. Like some of these auxiliary options that we weren't talking about because who wants to draft them when Jordan Love is potentially going to be your starting quarterback? But now I might be on an island here because people love Tyreek Hill, but Devonta Adams is my number one receiver going into the draft. I mean, I could rattle off some stats that'll blow your mind about this dude. And I'm not just talking about his, 8,000 touchdown receptions last year, or the fact that he had over 100 receptions, almost 1,400 yards in 14 games. But the fact that no one was targeted in the red zone more than him, nobody was targeted within the 5-yard line more than Devonta Adams. But more than anything else, and this is interesting, no quarterback attempted more passes inside the 5-yard line than Aaron Rodgers. And I find that to be really interesting because what does that say about Adams and Rodgers? It's great, right? Like this team is passing a lot inside the 5, and it drove me nuts whenever I rostered Jones last year. But how does that influence somebody like Aaron Jones as well? So let's break down how this influences everyone going into this based off what the current ADP is and what it should be once it adjusts to Rodgers being on the field.
Yeah, I think the first person we should probably talk about here is Rodgers. Rodgers also wants to bring in Randall Cobb, which is hilarious, which could completely dismantle all the value that a guy like Amari Rodgers may have later in drafts, who is someone that I really liked, but we talk about Rodgers first. What do you think about Rodgers, where he's going right now as around the quarterback 10 off the board?
I think it's totally all right. How about that? Let's actually break this down. We'll break it down from what we had last year. Aaron Rodgers, it's funny because you look at him and you go, all right, well, he's the MVP, dude threw 48 touchdowns. He had to be the QB1, right? No, that's why rushing quarterbacks are absolute cheat codes. Josh Allen, Kyler Murray finished first and second respectively. But Rodgers finished only 4 fantasy points in 4-point touchdown leagues behind Kyler Murray. And if you're in 6-point passing touchdown leagues, I don't know why you would be at this point, but Aaron Rodgers, I would assume would have been number 1. I'm not sure, but he would have been definitely 100% number 2. So he finished as the QB3. He threw for 4,300 passing yards, 48 passing touchdowns. Like I said, throw a ton inside the 5. That means a lot to me because they're not just handing it off every step of the way. Looking at this, Deshaun Watson finished 4th, so he's not going to be in that conversation. Mahomes was 5th. In 15 games, Wilson, Brady, Ryan Tannehill, Herbert, and Lamar Jackson rounded out the top 10. So is there anybody that who in this would you draft over or who would you draft Aaron Rodgers over here? Obviously Deshaun Watson. So that gives us only 9. If you want to throw in Cousins, he was the 11. I think Rodgers is absolutely solid at the 10, but I would probably draft him as like the QB 7, maybe even 6.
Yeah, to me, that seems a little bit high, maybe 7 or 6. But then again, if he does have this season that he had last year, it could be pretty easy for him to finish inside of the top 5. I just feel like he's around the range where Russell Wilson comes off the board. At that point, I'm ready to pull the trigger on Aaron Rodgers ahead of him. I'm not very confident in Wilson, and I am very confident in the passing attack in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, check this out too, right? If you take the games where Rodgers played a full season, or at least 15 games, okay, since 2008. Full season or at least 15 games since 2008. There are 2 seasons there where he didn't. Every other season he did. He finished as the QB, where are we here? Hold on, let me pull this up. The QB 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 7, 11, and 3. That's fucking crazy, right? Yeah. So he was the 11th in 2019, so we could use that as okay, and he was the 7 in 2018. A lot of that quarterbacks, just more of them have rushing upside now, and it's going to influence guys like Rodgers. There's no doubt about that. But he was still the QB3 last year. How much of a statistical cliff do we expect him to fall off of? And like, how much better than him or at all do we expect guys like Herbert to be, and a few of these other guys like Jalen Hurts? I know Jalen Hurts could be a cheat code, but do you draft Hurts ahead of Aaron Rodgers?
No, if you draft Hurts ahead of Aaron Rodgers, you're just crazy. You're just hunting upside. That's really it.
And Hurts is the QB8 right now.
Yeah, and you know what Rodgers is every single year. Like you just said, he's a guy inside the top 10. Jalen Hurts, he could easily be quarterback 15 or lower. He might end up getting, I doubt he gets benched, but how sure are we that Hurts is even a great option? So I'm pretty confident in Rodgers.
Right. And like you said, maybe 6 is a little too high. Who are you drafting? Who are you definitively drafting over Aaron Rodgers, assuming he's on the field? It looks, for all intents and purposes, like we're going to have Rodgers this season, hopefully for 16 games.
Yeah, so I would say definitely Mahomes, Kyler, Josh Allen, Lamar, and then that's when it starts to open up, maybe Dak ahead of him. But after that, I can see what you're talking about. I do like Justin Herbert a lot, but we do know what Rodgers is. Justin Herbert could have a downfall after having an excellent rookie season. I mean, that does tend to happen. Sometimes you get the sophomore slump. So maybe you are right, around the 6-ish range is where I'd be pretty confident drafting Rodgers. But I think that with what you were saying earlier about the fact that he doesn't run the ball, that scares a lot of people away. People like these flashy quarterbacks. They like their quarterback who can juke out a DB. Aaron Rodgers is not going to be able to do that. But what Rodgers can do is put up a safe floor every single week. And if he's in a matchup up against a team with a bad defense, he can really slice them up and really win you your week by himself.
Right. And the thing too is he also led the league in touchdown passes over 50 yards. So it's not like he's just dinking and dunking down the field. He can do anything he's asked to do or anything he wants to do. So yeah, I think 6 or 7, like you're drafting him over Brady, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think Brady is a pretty good option, but both those guys are just statues in the pocket. I guess Rodgers can move a little bit, but even with that said, I really do like the Green Bay option and Rodgers much more, because I feel like Tampa's going to try to run the ball in some of these games, whereas even if Aaron Jones is getting the ball, a lot of his value comes from his receiving ability.
Devonta Adams is equally interesting. Okay, so before all of this, if you're just taking ADP and you filter it by wide receivers, I'm going to go back to, like, let's say I'll go back a week ago before when it really looked like Aaron Rodgers was not going to be on the field. I mean, Westgate Sportsbook, a huge Vegas sportsbook, pulled all of the NFC North markets and futures off the board, right? Like, because they anticipated retirement. That's crazy. So if you look back then to see what it was, Devonta Adams was still the wide receiver 4. If you were to go back to, like, I don't know, this time in June, Devonta Adams was the wide receiver. I think he was even lower than that. Now, wide receiver 3. Okay, so he's fallen a little bit. But over in the last week, you had Devonta Adams sitting at the wide receiver 4 with an ADP of 14. So it's actually crept up a little bit recently. Is he now a bona fide first-round pick? Keep in mind, Tyreek Hill is going with an ADP of 8 right now as wide receiver 1. Stephon Diggs in the first round, wide receiver 2 with a 10 or an 11 ADP. Those guys are going ahead of him right now. DeAndre Hopkins is going ahead of him. The number 1 receiver last year was Devonta Adams. I'm not saying he replicates that, but just an insane year. He is a supreme talent. Where do you draft him now, and who do you put him ahead of or behind?
Well, originally, before all of this news, I had Stephon Diggs as my wide receiver 1, 2 was Tyreek, and then Devonta Adams was sitting at 3, because even with Jordan Love, I thought that he still would be good. But now, obviously, Rodgers is there. I think Devonta Adams could have a repeat season. I would draft him as the number 1 wide receiver right now inside of the first round. I think that he is just so safe with the touchdowns, with all of the receiving shots that he gets every single game. He is just going to be consistent week in and week out. And that's what you're looking for if you're going to pull the trigger on the first round in a wide receiver. So to me, he's the number 1 overall guy off the board. I'm taking him probably around pick 8, 9. I'm not someone who's really willing to draft him ahead of some of these running backs, but at the end of the day, he should be the wide receiver 1 off the board. And I think everyone's going to come to that conclusion by the end of next week.
I couldn't agree more. And if you're looking at targets last year, he had 146. He ranked he ranked 4th in targets at his position, but he played 14 games. He didn't play 16 games. So if you were to just prorate that to 16 games, he's at 166. Stephon Diggs played 16 games, had 162. Hopkins played 16 games, had 154. Robinson had 150 at 16 games as well. So if Devonta Adams plays 16 games, he's either first in targets or he's second. And he's already, the most dominant force in the red zone that we're looking at, ahead of all of those guys. The thing that I love about him is, okay, Kansas City Chiefs, dominant, arguably the best, most explosive offense in the league. I get that. But I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be featured a lot more in the passing game this season. If you don't believe me, just go back and look at what Andy Reid has done with all of his running backs, turning him into studs, from LaShawn McCoy to Brian Westbrook being a RB1 in like 3 straight seasons. He's done it with a lot. Kareem Hunt, even Jamal Charles, my favorite running back ever, when he had him for a stint there. And you have Travis Kelce, who is one of the most dominant forces in the league as well. Who the hell else do you have in Green Bay? Like Amari Rodgers, Robert Tonyan, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Allen Lazard?
Yeah, the craziest thing is, in the red zone where the ball is going to go. He's going to throw it to Adams, and it doesn't matter at all. Adams catches it every single time. He is the only receiving option on that team who you even need to try to cover at all, and he just gets the ball every single time without a doubt. Like you're saying, in Kansas City, there's a lot of options there. Travis Kelce is a force to be reckoned with in the red zone. I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire necessarily is, but Tyreek Hill's not necessarily a guy who's going to score all those touchdowns inside the red zone. So I just think that Devonta Adams is just a step above a guy like Tyreek Hill. I wouldn't necessarily rank him and say, oh, he's a tier above, but in some way he almost kind of is.
Another thing I love about this too, if you're talking best ball leagues, is if you draft Tyreek Hill in the first round and you want a stacking option there, you want to get Patrick Mahomes, you're going like first and third round to complete that stack. I don't have an issue with it, but you still have to spend a lot of draft capital. It'll be a good stack. Sure. Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen, you still have to spend a lot of draft capital on both of those guys too. The same goes for DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray. When it comes to Devonta Adams, dude, you can double stack with any of those peripheral receivers. Even if you wanted to get Tonyan, who obviously his touchdown rate was absurdly and unsustainably high last year, you could do that. But you know how nice it would be to draft Adams and then Rodgers as like a QB 9 or 10, if that's where he's going, knowing that that is probably the most dominant quarterback to wide receiver connection in the entire league.
Yeah, it's honestly ridiculous where he's going right now. I think he will keep moving up the board, but even if he's quarterback 7, quarterback 8, he's not going to be in that kind of consensus range of a guy like Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, who you really have to pull the trigger in the 4th round if you want to get that guy to stack with your Stephon Diggs, with your DeAndre Hopkins. If you want to get the full-on Kansas City stack, you have to use your first 3-round picks. If you want Kelce, if you want Hill, and you want Patrick Mahomes, and most of the time that's impossible to get, whereas it is very possible that you can get Tonyan, you can get Rodgers, and that you can get Devonta Adams on your team.
Exactly. Let's just say he goes as like the QB 7 or 8. He's still going to have probably an ADP around 80, where Kyler Murray's in the low 50s, and Josh Allen is in the high 40s. And obviously, if you want to get Mahomes, you got to spend a 3rd round pick on him, maybe an early 4th, depending on who you're drafting with. So I think we're both on the same page. I mean, Devonta Adams and Aaron Rodgers, I was so much lower on them earlier in the year because of the uncertainty. And there's so many good wide receivers in that 2nd round that you like, oh man, I got stuck with Ridley. That sucks. I love Calvin Ridley. Oh, I couldn't get Devonta Adams, but I got DeAndre Hopkins. That's fine. But now, and I did a best ball draft with Matt Gajewski. We actually did it right here on the channel, where we did take a shot on Adams and Aaron Rodgers. And I think it was like 3rd round Devonta Adams and 12th round or 11th round Rodgers. So sometimes you get some good early picks, but Aaron Jones is the one that I really want to talk to you about. This one to me is on all fronts a little bit confusing, because you have no more Jamal Williams, who handled a lot of 3rd down work, but Aaron Jones is actually a very good pass catcher, probably doesn't get the respect he deserves. A.J. Dillon supplants Jamal Williams, but he's not a pass catching back. And now you're getting, if you want to draft Jones, you can still get a middle to late 2nd round. Should he be going earlier than that now that Rodgers is expected to play?
Yeah, 100%. I'm ready to pull the trigger in the 1st round. He could easily finish as a top 5 running back. If you pick him at pick 7, pick 8, I would not even call you crazy. At this point, I think that Aaron Jones is the workhorse in this team. I don't think that people are really trying to talk up A.J. Dillon, talk about how he has so much value, how he's going to get all these touches. He's basically just going to be Jamal Williams, what Jamal Williams was in Green Bay, which is
if that, because he might not catch any passes.
Yeah, exactly. Jamal Williams is a pretty good pass catcher. So this is the perfect time for Aaron Jones to step on the gas even further. And you were talking about how Devonta Adams catches all these balls in the red zone. They always look to him. Aaron Jones is a guy that is still going to put on potentially double-digit touchdowns. I believe in 2019, he scored 15, maybe it was 17 touchdowns, something ridiculous. And people were saying that, oh, he's going to fall off after the touchdowns. No, he completes the season again, top 10 running back. He's going to do it again. This is going to be
19 total touchdowns, by the way, 16 and 3.
19 touchdowns. You know how crazy that is? And he could do that again easily if this team is able to move the balls effectively as they have in the past. I'm all in on Aaron Jones. I think people are going to continue to try to draft him in the second round, but I'm perfectly fine drafting him anywhere in the first round after those couple of big running backs when you're talking about like Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, and Dalvin Cook. After that, like the door's wide open. I'm perfectly fine drafting a guy like Aaron Jones after that.
He actually had more red zone touches or carries last year than he did the year prior, which is kind of crazy because he only had 33 red zone carries in 2019. But he had, and I like this stat because you could use goal line, but if you're using just like inside the 5 as well, it gives you an idea, because if you're inside the 5, a lot of times you're getting some easy scores. He had 17 attempts inside the 5 and 10 touchdowns, which is insane. Those are great numbers. Last year, he had 39 attempts in the red zone. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more, but I keep going back to the fact that this offense is so heavily concentrated between Jones and Adams that I'm not worried about it either. And if people are going into this season assuming just a 50-50 timeshare split, I agree with you. Between Jones and Dillon, what data or even narrative do we have to back that up? Like, oh, okay, well, but Laffy, they drafted A.J. Dillon in the second round. Okay, Aaron Jones just signed a 4-year contract after we thought they were going to let him go. So which one is it going to be? I think I would put him in the late end of the first round. I would now put Devonta Adams in the first round, and it says a lot. I would assume we have 2 teams who have multiple players in the first round right now, the Chiefs and the Chiefs. I would think there's only 2, right?
Yeah, it's the Chiefs and the Packers. Yeah. Which is crazy.
It is crazy, but it just goes to show you just the overall concentration of targets. And it's crazy. So I'm there. And Liquid Demon says A.J. Dillon is good. I'm not saying he's not. He said he'll be the goal line back. I do not agree with that. And I will tell you why. Why would you take, and I'm not saying he won't get any goal line touches, but why would you take someone in Aaron Jones, who has been in large part very efficient inside the red zone, not as much last year, but still on the goal line, Aaron Jones has been very efficient. Inside the 5, he's 15 for 28 over the last 2 years. That's more than a 50% conversion rate on touchdowns inside the 5-yard line. I don't know. I don't know why you'd want to tinker with success. Maybe they will. We'll see.
But also if you put A.J. Dillon in, like, it's a guarantee that you're going to run the ball, right? A.J. Dillon's not, he's like a fucking wrecking ball. That's what the guy's doing. Like, he's just going to steal a touchdown. He's not going to be like, if he's out of the game, or if A.J. Dillon's in the game and Aaron Jones out of the game, then you know exactly what's going to be happening here. There's no shot they try to pass it. So you know exactly what to do. I don't know. It seems kind of stupid for them to give A.J. Dillon the keys over there. I think that Aaron Jones is perfectly fine as a goal line back.
Yeah, and he's got 830 receiving yards and 5 receiving touchdowns over the last 2 years. I mean, that's really not bad for a back like Aaron Jones at all. He's actually a good pass catcher.
Yeah, and that's with Jamal Williams as well, who was sucking in a lot of targets.
Right. I mean, Aaron Jones last year had how many targets? 63, and the year before that he had 69 targets, right? I don't anticipate A.J. Dillon getting many targets at all. Williams had 35 and 45 last year. A.J. Dillon might have like 12 this year, and that might. So I'm not convinced. If Aaron Jones is your clear third down back as well, and he's still getting goal line touches, I think a first round ADP is absolutely worth it. Scott says, Laffy, you said it yesterday. It's better than with Jamal in there backing him up. Yeah, that's what both of us are saying. Like if Jamal Williams catches passes, is he elite? Maybe not, but he's better than AJ Dillon at that. So what about the peripheral guys? Like what are we doing with Amari Rodgers or Alan Lazard or Marquez Valdez-Scantling or even Robert Tonyan?
Yeah, so with the receivers, I'm just looking to take the last guy that's off the board. I'm just looking to take that shot. Every single year for the last 2 years, we've had MVS versus the other guy whose name you mentioned. I forgot, Geronimo Allison, whoever the hell the other wide receivers are. They mention them every single year. They always fail. So there's no real need to even have that debate. I think that Robert Tonyan is a guy that I'm happy drafting, but you said this earlier, he relies so heavily on touchdowns that would you be surprised if Tanyan's one of those Gary Barnidge-esque tight ends who have that one splash year and then they just disappear in 2021? Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Tonyan disappeared. But you also have to think that why would Rodgers stop throwing the ball to him in the red zone? Why would they stop doing what's successful? So he should still be fine, but don't be surprised at all if he just completely falls off the edge of the earth.
Absolutely. I mean, Robert Tonyan's numbers last year were verifiably absurd. Yeah. He caught 52 of 59 passes, first of all, right? So he caught 88% of his passes. He had 11 touchdowns on 52 receptions. So that's he caught touchdowns on 21% of his receptions.
Yeah, and if you remember that game against Atlanta, he literally scored like 3 touchdowns in that one game.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually looking at it now. He had a 3 touchdown game against Atlanta in week 4. He scored in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks. He scored in 5 straight weeks and then 6 of 7 weeks to close out the season.
That's crazy.
But he was good. The problem is he had a lot of games with like 1 or 2 or 3 receptions. I don't think Tonyan's a terrible option, but I will say this. If you're drafting Tonyan because you think double-digit touchdowns are in store for him this year, I think that's probably a mistake. But at his current ADP, this is where he's going right now. And I think I think you and I talked about this the other day during the draft, which you can check out right here on the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel, is a lot of times you don't see these type of peripheral options like the secondary or tertiary guys like Tonyan or Lazard or any of them. You don't see their ADPs climb nearly as quick as Adams. People, I won't say overreact, but people definitely react quicker on the top dogs. And then guys like Tonyan might stay where they are. So if I'm getting Robert Tonyan in like the 12th round or 13th round where he's been going, I don't think that's I think 12th round, actually. That's really not crazy to think that in a high-powered offense at a weak tight end position, once you get past the first handful of players, that he can still be good. I just think we need to temper our expectations a little bit.
Yeah, around the range where he's going, all of those guys are just upside guesses that you're hoping scores enough touchdowns to finish as like a top 5 guy. So around where he's going, I'm perfectly fine taking him, but expecting him to, like you said, drop like 10 plus touchdowns is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think so too. It is nice though, because some of the numbers on Tonyan were very, very solid. Like he clearly didn't drop passes. He did a lot of things that you want in a tight end, and he was a legitimate red zone threat. But I would say I'll take him where he is. I don't want to reach on him. I don't want to overreact on Tonyan. Last thing here, anybody else for the Packers that you think is a little bit favorably affected by this?
I would say, I don't know, because I do like Amari Rodgers, like I said earlier, but now there's this talk of Rodgers really wanting Randall Cobb back for some reason, like some absurd reason. So maybe if Randall Cobb comes back, he's not going to be fantasy relevant, but he might just take all these other wide receivers and throw their value in the garbage, to be honest with you, because even if he targets Cobb like the 3rd highest amount, then that's eating away from everyone else. And then you're just in a shit show between the other wide receivers.
There was a tweet yesterday. I forget if it was from Tom Pelissero or Ian Rappaport or Schefter that was like, yeah, Rodgers returning is contingent upon Randall Cobb coming back. You know, it's such a strange concept, but I guess it would help them to have Randall Cobb in the slot, Devonta Adams, and then Aaron Jones. Like they're going to be good anyway, but I don't know. Like, would Randall Cobb have fantasy value?
No, not at all. I mean, it actually seems possible that it could happen because the team who has him is the Houston Texans. They just traded for Anthony Miller. So it seems like they could just get rid of Randall Cobb. But I don't know, what would a team even want to trade for Randall Cobb? What is Randall Cobb worth? Nothing.
A pack of smokes and a Dunkin' Donuts gift card? I don't know.
Like a fucking half-eaten bag of chips. Like that's what you're going to get for him. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, no disrespect, Randall. It's just there's not. Well, you know what? That might be the thing, right? Maybe it makes sense because the Houston Texans are not in a position to win right now. So maybe a 5th or 6th round pick, probably a 6th round pick. Maybe they just get like cash considerations. I don't know. But maybe that's worth it to them because what's Randall Cobb's real value, especially long-term in Houston? There is none. He's just there.
I'm surprised Rodgers doesn't want Jordy Nelson to come out of retirement or something at this point. Like,
yeah, bring back John Kuhn. That would be fun. Okay, so I think we've covered enough on Aaron Rodgers here. Hit that thumbs up too, guys, if you're enjoying the show. And you want to help us keep putting out good free content here on the site. It helps us a ton. And subscribe to the channel. We are almost at 5,000 subs. We've gained a ton recently thanks to all of you checking out the channel. If you're new, if you've been with us since the DFS days, we appreciate it. But if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And while you're at it, head over to FFPC.com, myffpc.com. Sorry. If you're not familiar with the Fantasy Football Players Championship, it's the king of high stakes fantasy, but they also have leagues for as low as $35, but huge player prize pools in some of these dynasty leagues as well, starting at $77. But man, you've got, for example, $500,000 grand prize, the FFPC main event. You can draft live in Vegas. You can do it online. It doesn't matter, depending on how intense you are about all this. The Football Guys Player Championship, $500K up top. You have daily online drafts every single day. Best ball leagues as well. We talk best ball strategy on the show all the time. If you're serious about fantasy football, if you really want to put yourself in a position to win some good money, go to myffpc.com. Check it out. No matter what league you want to join, it's a great site. It's a reputable site, and that matters these days. And there's just a ton of money to win over there. So check it out, myffpc.com. All right, Deshaun Watson. This is crazy because you and I talked about it before the show. Like there's a report about this. Then there's a report that is that is contradicting the initial report, sometimes from the same guy. It's crazy. But as of now, he's showing up to training camp, so he's not fined $50,000 a day. Yeah, I'd do the same. Good decision, Deshaun. And he's not on the commissioner's exempt list because they couldn't essentially prove that he did anything egregious. I'm paraphrasing there. And now the Texans are once again open to offers, even though they want a ton for the reigning passing yards leader. I don't know what to do here, Nick, but what I do know is that if he lands on another team like the Eagles, they're immediately going to go from a middling offense to one of the most intriguing and appealing fantasy offenses in the league.
Yeah, I completely agree. If he was to go to Philadelphia, then I think the ADP of even a guy like Miles Sanders is going to increase very quickly. Devonta Smith's ADP is going to go up. Dallas Goedert is going to go up as well. Those are all options on this team that would be very good with Deshaun Watson. The Philadelphia Eagles could easily win the NFC East if that was the case, and Deshaun Watson is good to play this season. The question is he good to play this season? What is going to happen? Because like you were saying, there was a report today that he is not going to be able to play at all, and then 4 seconds later, they tweet out that he is going to be getting traded. So yeah, I have no idea what to think about this, but what I do know is that if Deshaun Watson plays, regardless of what team he is on, I want him on my fantasy team.
No question. Now, even from like a best ball standpoint, is there any value in saying, all right, well, I drafted 2 later round quarterbacks. Maybe I got Matt Ryan and I got Trevor Lawrence or something, guys that are going after the 10th round. If Deshaun Watson's there with your last pick in the 18th round, maybe you're on DraftKings where you draft, I think it's 21 or 22 rounds. Would you scoop up Watson and say, you know what, I don't usually carry 3 quarterbacks, but this guy could be, a top 5 QB again this year and win me my league in what's usually a throwaway pick that late in the draft?
Yeah, 100%. I've done it before. Now, I'm not even 100% clear on if he's going to be playing or not, but in the 19th round, the 18th round, where you're going to be picking some other quarterback that I doubt he would even enter your lineup. How many times do you think Sam Darnold is going to enter your lineup? How many times do you think Zach Wilson is going to enter your lineup? So at that point, screw it. Fuck it. Just might as well draft Deshaun Watson. And if he is to play, he's a top 5 guy and could easily be the number 1 quarterback, regardless of what team he's on. He put up big numbers last year with the Texans after they traded away DeAndre Hopkins. He was doing it with all these bum wide receivers. He can do it wherever it is, whether that's the Denver Broncos, the Eagles, or honestly anywhere else.
If the Eagles were to land him, and you just touched on this a little bit, but like Dallas Goedert skyrockets in value. Jalen Rhaegar, who has like a 130 ADP right now, skyrockets. Devonta Smith, that's the toughest one for me because I already think he's a little bit overvalued right now. The guy hasn't played a single snap. He's the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, only the 3rd wide receiver to ever do that, right? The accolades go on forever. Like you don't, there aren't enough superlatives to describe what Devonta Smith did in college. So I won't waste your time. But at the same time, like he's not very big. How are they going to use him? Are they going to use him appropriately? Are they going to get him the ball everywhere? I hope so. I absolutely hope Nick Sirianni figures that out. But dude, his ADP is 67. That's pretty high right now for a team that everyone projects to be not great and an offense that no one has any idea what's going on.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, it is going to get higher if Deshaun Watson was to go.
Oh, absolutely.
It would continue to go up. And at that price, that is pretty scary. I think at 66, 67, where you're saying, I think I'm fine taking him there, but it does seem a little ambitious based upon the build, based upon how bad the Eagles have been in the past of just drafting wide receivers. Like maybe this is just a piss poor fit and they just drafted him because he won the Heisman or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Where would you be comfortable drafting him then? Let's say, okay, where would you guys too answer this in the chat and in the comments if you're watching after we're live? Where would you draft? Where would you be comfortable drafting Devonta Smith if Deshaun Watson ends up in Philly? And I'm not low. Maybe it's not likely that he ends up in Philly, right? But we got to cover all of our bases. And the Eagles already have 2 first-rounders. They got one from Miami. They have their own. They could get a third if Wentz plays 75% or more of snaps, or even 70%, and they make the playoffs. They already have 2 seconds. One of those could convert to a first on the Colts. They have a ton of early round draft capital in round 2 or in 2022. While in order to get guys like Laramie Tunsil and other trades, Houston traded everything away for a few years. So they could really benefit from this. I think the Eagles are the best fit, which is why I bring this up. Where would you guys draft him, Nick? Where would you be comfortable drafting Devonta Smith?
Well, it depends about my team composition, if I'm being honest with you, because if he's a guy that is my wide receiver too, there is no way I feel confident in drafting him at that spot. So I guess round 5 or 6 would be around that, but that's where he's going right now. So I don't think I would feel comfortable drafting him in like the 4th round because that's where he's going to move. He's going to continue to move up. There's going to be all this hype. You're going to see a picture of him catching the ball or a video on Twitter in training camp, and people are going to be going crazy, and he's going to keep going up. And then once Deshaun Watson touches down in Philadelphia, his ADP is going to be in the 4th round, and I'm not taking him there. But in the 5th round, I would be happy to draft him there. What are you thinking about that?
Oh, God, it's such a tough decision. Like, because we've seen – recently, you and I talked about this, like, and I think that you have to evolve when it comes to fantasy football, when it comes to DFS, when it comes to any of this stuff, betting, no matter what it is, you have to evolve with the times. It's so easy to get stuck in a mindset of like, well, this worked for me in the past. This must work for me now. Rookie wide receivers, you always, rookie tight ends is one thing. We know that they still struggle to this day outside of just the pure freaks of nature. Kyle Pitts is made in a lab. Sure. But generally speaking, they're not very good in year 1. Wide receivers, for the most part, you'd always have that probably a misconception. But more recently, you have seen so many of them with huge seasons. Chase Claypool might not have had the biggest yardage totals, but he had some massively big games. He had some huge touchdown against the Eagles. I think he had that 3 touchdown game. Yeah. Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, if Dak Prescott was active, would have been an easy 1,000-yard receiver, and it's not even close. What about T. Higgins as well? If Joe Burrow played all 16 games, that's another example. And then Jalen Rhaegar. No, I'm kidding. But there were a lot of them just last year. A.J. Brown the year prior to that. So is it crazy to think that Devonta Smith could have a big year in year 1? With Deshaun Watson as his quarterback? Absolutely not. But in the same breath, 4th round, Here's how I try and evaluate this. If you're drafting him in the 4th round, okay, that means that you're taking him with alongside or before or after guys like, let's say, all right, where are we at? CeeDee Lamb's 3rd round. Okay, 4th round. Julio Jones, Chris Godwin, DJ Moore, Tyler Lockett, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Adam Thielen. Those are the guys that you'd be drafting him in the same neighborhood as. Would you be cool with that?
No,
right.
Not at all. That's like, it's too high. It's
yeah. So
crazy.
I think 5th round, and that's why I already think that the ADP on Devonta Smith is a little bit scary, but I would put him for sure over. I'd put him over Cortland Sutton. I'd put him over Robbie Anderson. I'd put him, Higgins, Deontay Johnson, Galladay. I think that's probably where he should be drafted. Maybe a little bit after that, which would put him in the 5th round or so.
Yeah, I would not be confident drafting him over like Deontay Johnson or Kenny Galladay. No. Maybe those other guys somewhat, but T. Higgins as well. Like you just talked about how good of a season T. Higgins could have had. Now imagine how good of a season he can have when there's no way you can stop any of those wide receivers in Cincinnati if they're going to throw the ball as much as they did last year. So there's no way you could take Devonta Smith around those players.
Yeah. Oh, no question. I don't think you got after them is what I'm saying. I think you could take him after those guys. That's where I'd feel comfortable. But here's the problem. That's where he's already going. You know? So if that's the case, then what do you do with Devonta Smith? I think it's a tough question to answer. Plus, Dallas Goedert, great pass catching wide receiver or tight end. Who knows what happens with Jalen Rhaegar? He is still a 1st round pick who was injured for a bunch of last year, and Carson Wentz was ass. So I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of question marks there. What about Denver and Miami? If he goes to Denver, you have Cortland Sutton, you got Jerry Jeudy, you got Noah Fant. I mean, that could be a absurdly scary offense. I still think Philly's the most likely of any of them. Maybe none of them are likely, but Denver would be intense. Miami would be intense as well with all of those great pass catching options.
Yeah, I think Denver would be an excellent spot for him. That's really where a lot of people thought he was going to go. That's where people thought Rodgers is going to go now. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but that is an excellent team with the weapons that they have there. You didn't even say Noah Fant, also one of the better, most athletic type. Oh, you did. All right, then sorry for that. I just exposed you for no reason. But
that's all right.
Noah Fant, also one of those guys that's great on that team. The running backs, Javonte Williams could be excellent there. I don't know. I think that is one of the better landing spots. As a Dolphins fan, I would hate if he went to the Miami Dolphins because I believe in the Tua experiment, but that's a great landing spot as well. Devontae Parker, Will Fuller, Gesicki, Jalen Waddle. This is a team that is ready to make that next move, and Watson would fit perfectly on that team, just like he would with Denver. So really any of the Eagles, the Dolphins, or the Denver Broncos, he's going to be great.
Yeah, he really is. And I guess that's the only reason I kept coming back to the Eagles is because they have so much draft capital. Like it makes it way easier. But I think the Dolphins, I mean, shit, if you were to land on the Dolphins, you've given up on Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah.
And and by the way, I don't know if I'd even want him coming to the Eagles. To be honest with you, like, I'm not even sure I'd want him coming to the Eagles because would you be cool with the Eagles giving up both of their firsts in 2022 and then a first in 2023? Would it be worth it?
I mean, I guess it would be worth it, but that is a very heavy price to pay. But like, what else are you going to do? You have to pay that much if you want the guy. So, yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if a trade's even imminent. The guy's still under investigation. So that's another thing. I mean, does he get traded and then they tell him he can't play? The whole thing sounds wild. Maybe they can put this off until next season. But even if that's the case, do you give up a ton and then he's suspended for the entire year? I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, there's so much risk when you have to pay 3 first-round picks, 4 first-round picks for a guy who you have no idea. Well, even what if he may not even be able to play in the NFL again? So,
right. I mean, like I said, I'm not the arbiter of morality around here. If he did it or didn't do it, I still have to talk about it, what the fantasy impact is. It's just the way things go, right? Yeah, nothing drives me crazier than people refusing to answer questions on guys when it's their job. And it's like, hey, dude, I subscribed to your service. Can you tell me what to do with him? He was my second round pick. And they go, how dare you ask me that question? You piece of I mean, come on. It's crazy. You gotta answer questions. You know.
Yeah, you have to answer every single time. And there's really, right now is the most you can talk about it, because before we had no idea what was happening.
No.
Now there's a lot of stuff going on. His agent, I believe, or his quarterback coach said that he believed that Watson would be traded on Sunday. We're obviously past Sunday now. So who knows what's going to happen?
We have a couple rapid fire players to hit on here. And thanks to you guys for hanging out with us. If you haven't hit that thumbs up or subscribed yet, join the family here at the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel. We're putting out a ton of great content. Nick just joined us in the past week or so. He's been pumping out great stuff at awesemo.com, written stuff, and everything here on the YouTubes as well. I think there are a few players right now that we need to go over. They're on the sidebar. Jordan Klein producing today's show. Appreciate you as always, fella. Saquon Barkley. How worried are you with the coach speak that we saw from Joe Judge when he's like, listen, we're thinking long-term with Barkley, which is crazy because running backs have the shortest lifespan anyway, not like actual lifespan, but in terms of how long they're in the league. We're thinking long-term. And he's saying, maybe we won't even play him for week 1 or any of the preseason. Does that concern you, and do you bump him back in your rankings? Because he's going 5th in a lot of leagues, 6th in a lot of leagues.
Yeah, I am. Well, I spoke to an actual doctor a couple days ago, and he said he's not worried at all about Saquon. He's going to be fine. But that also doesn't encompass the fact that Joe Judge or the higher ups of the team can just pull him out, have him not play the first couple of games, or maybe give him a decreased workload. But my thought is, if they give him a decreased workload and he's Saquon Barkley and he just destroys the defense, what are you going to do? Sit him? What kind of move is that, to just bench the guy who's helping you win these games? So I really don't think you can move Saquon Barkley down too much. But I think as we get closer to the real draft season in August or early September, when people are doing their drafts, that we will have a much better defined idea of what is going to be happening in New York with Saquon, whether that is a load management or whether that is him not playing at all for the first game or two.
He's on the PUP list, so I would imagine he's definitely activated, at the final roster cut down. Because if not, he has to miss at least 6 weeks. And I just don't see that happening. Like, it would be crazy to think that happens. So I'm not worried about any of that. But I guess the question is really, like, if people start freaking out about this and Barkley falls to 10 or 11, does he become one of the best values to you in the early rounds of the draft?
Yeah, 100%. That's where he's going around right now. I've seen his ADP keep moving back. I've seen him go in the second round of some drafts. And to be honest with you, that's just stupid. Why would he fall that far? He is one of the best running backs in the NFL. He's one of those running backs that can tack on all of those receptions that you need in half PPR for full PPR. No one really plays standard nowadays. I do get standard questions, but it's far and few in between. Saquon Barkley is one of the best running backs in the NFL. Don't overthink it too much. Unless his leg is snapped in fucking half, I'm drafting him inside the first round. Okay.
Michael Thomas. We all know what's going on with him. He's going to miss some time. Where are you comfortable drafting him now? He's got because it's funny. He was in my must draft video that was coming out on Friday. And as we're posting it, literally as it's uploading to YouTube, the Michael Thomas news comes out. Like, you got to be kidding. It's happening every day I post a video. But I loved Michael Thomas in the 3rd round. I loved him there, especially assuming that Jameis Winston was going to be the starter there, taking over for the retired Drew Brees. But now it's like, okay, he got surgery. He can miss the first month, but their bye week is week 6. Does that mean he misses the first 5 games and returns for week 7? Oh, it's such a tenuous situation right now. I honestly don't know what to do with him. But I dropped him down a lot in my rankings recently because there's a lot of good receivers out there that I expect to play more than 8 or 9 games, 10 games.
Yeah, he fell out of the top 12, out of my top 24, out of the top 30. I have no confidence in drafting him right now, thinking that he's going to play more than half of the season. He could easily miss, like you said, maybe 7 games, 6 games. On the low end, what is it going to be, 4 games? So even then, if you're drafting him inside the top 5 rounds, it's kind of stupid. So I'd be waiting until like the 6th, 7th, 8th round to be taking him. And even then, there's still a lot of risk that comes with that. And the other wide receivers going around him, you don't expect at all, like you were saying, to miss any games. So I don't really see how you can even take him inside of like the top 7 rounds, if I'm being honest with you. But he will get drafted higher than there because he's Michael Thomas. And people will think, oh, if you get 8 good games out of Michael Thomas, but then you also have to put in perspective that maybe it's not 8 good games because he returns, he comes back too early, or he gets injured again. So
happened last year.
Yeah.
Nick and I had this conversation before we went live. People are still drafting Michael Thomas in the 3rd round. And and this is what's happening. You got people that are coming in. They don't know, they aren't familiar with the news, and they're doing drafts. Like even the underdog one is $25 to enter. It's not, it's not the quarter arcade like on DraftKings. You're still paying $25 to enter this draft, and people are drafting Michael Thomas in the 3rd round or the 4th round because it's like, man, I can't believe no one's taken Thomas yet. That's a steal. So yes, some people are still going to make that mistake, and if that's the case, take advantage of that. But I think you have to look at the impact it has on guys like Adam Troutman, right? Who I already liked, but now I like a lot more. Saquon Smith is another one. Deontay Harris, who had that great game in the postseason. Like, I'm not saying any of these guys are going to be studs this year. Don't get me wrong. What I am saying is you're getting them essentially for free at this point. Maybe not free, but you're getting Troutman in the 12th round, 11th round. You're getting Saquon Smith outside of the top 10 rounds. Deontay Harris, you're getting as one of the last picks of the draft. You don't really have to worry about the draft capital you're spending on them or if they're going to be good, but Winston still has to throw to somebody.
Yeah, and a lot of what people are not talking about is the fact that how much this impacts Alvin Kamara, because when Michael Thomas is out, Kamara just absolutely eats it with these targets, and that could move him up even further. I mean, how much higher can you move him in the rankings? He's like a top 4 running back, but that really does help him out as well. Yeah, I'm at 3 as well. So I'm very confident in Alvin Kamara. But like you were saying, I think Troutman is probably going to be the guy that I am looking for super late in drafts, maybe in redrafts, not as much because I don't look to draft 2 tight ends. And if I'm taking Troutman, I'm not ultra confident enough to draft. Just stick with him, and I probably would draft another one. But in best ball, he's going to be a very big target of mine, and like probably around 14, 15, because he's going to move up, just like with Saquon Smith. We've seen him shoot up, and Harris as well.
For sure. And I actually think this could benefit Latavius Murray a little bit too. I'm not saying go draft him in the 8th round, but Latavius Murray is one of the best backups to draft in fantasy football, hands down, because he already has utility. He's already like a 10 touch per game guy. But then if Kamara were to go down, Latavius Murray becomes an outright stud. Matter of fact, was it 2 years ago that the Kamara went down and Latavius Murray took over, and he was the RB1 in both of those weeks by like 10 points. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen every time, but Sean Payton likes to run the football. Does he try and reel Jameis Winston in a little bit? Say like, listen, it was cool that you were the founder of the 30-30 club in 2019, but I don't want a guy throwing 30 interceptions on my team. So, do what you do well, and I'm not going to allow you to do what you do awfully. Maybe they ran at the 4th highest clip last year. I get that. But maybe they run even more this season. And if that's the case, you can see Latavius Murray get worked in even more. He's one of just my favorite later round picks for all of those reasons. So with Michael Thomas being out, I think you're going to have to lean on the guys that are actually proven good football players. And believe it or not, Latavius Murray is one of them.
Yeah, he definitely is. He, like you were saying, that 1 game or 2 games from, I think that was 2 years ago, like you said, he was the number 1 running back. He is one of those guys that fills the role perfectly. He's a Tony Pollard. He's an Alexander Madison type of player. And if they do try to run the ball more, if Taysom Hill is under center, they're probably going to run the ball 7 million times, but I don't expect that to happen. I think Jameis is going to be the guy. Someone in the chat asked about how good is Callaway. Do you have any read on him? Because I don't think he's very good at all.
No, I think, okay, so, and then you have like Lil Jordan Humphrey.
Yeah. That's a fake name.
It's got to be. Last year, Callaway was on the field for 6 games. He wasn't horrible in those games that he played. I have to look a little bit more into him. But again, this is what it comes down to. I'm just okay taking flyers on these guys. If it's Harris, if it's Callaway with your last pick of the draft, it doesn't bother me. And it's funny too, because in the 6 games that he did play, he played, let's see here, 1, 2, or not, he played more than 6. Why does it say he only played 6?
It's probably 6 games started or something.
Yeah, he must have started 6 games, but he had 52 snaps, 51, 47. I'd have to look at the snap percentages. Either way, 4 targets, 10 targets, 6 targets. He was actively involved in the offense in a lot of those games. Yeah, I don't know. He's an undrafted 23-year-old, 6'1", 205-pound wide receiver. If you want to take a shot on in the dark, why not take it on a team that has legitimately no wide receiver one and still an unproven tight end out of Dayton, even though I like him. So, yeah, I think it's just take a shot. Take a shot on one of these guys, and it might pay off because we've seen plenty of undrafted or late-round wide receivers and running backs put in some work before.
Yeah, we've seen unknown, really, receivers strive with Jameis Winston a couple years ago. Rashad Perryman, after Godwin and Evans went down, we saw Perryman have a really good season. Perryman was a no one before that, and now he's on a completely different team. But yeah, I think that Callaway is worth a flyer, but I don't expect him to really be. I don't think he's that great of a player, but I guess you would want to take the shot later in the draft to take him.
If it's your last pick, it's like, do I go with him or Tarek Cohen? Yeah. And I'm not very big on the guys like Cohen or, I could rattle off Zach Ertz. Yeah. Take a shot on a guy that's on a team that doesn't have anybody else. Finally, Nick, your thoughts on Amari Cooper. There's reports, and I don't know how legitimate they are, that the team is becoming frustrated with Amari Cooper's constant nagging injuries and playing through injuries and not practicing, but they paid him like a number one wideout, and now it appears that he's going to miss most, if not all, of preseason, which is now 3 weeks.
I mean, who could really be shocked, though? He's been hurt all of his career. He constantly gets hurt. I would be, if he is continuing to fall, misses all of preseason, I would be very nervous to be drafting him where he is going. CeeDee Lamb is instantly shooting up ahead of him. Now, if they're both on the field together, week one, he's the guy, then I believe Amari Cooper genuinely is the guy. But say, he's injured, he's banged up, CeeDee Lamb instantly shoots ahead of him, and I think that Lamb would be the guy to own on the team. And if Cooper's going to miss some time in the season, then Gallup is I'm very excited to get Gallup in like the 8th, 9th, 10th round, where he's going even later in some leagues.
It's crazy, man. In sharper leagues, Gallup's going pretty early, but yeah, in a lot of these other leagues, you're getting him outside of the top 100, which is just an absolute steal. It's a steal. It's one of the biggest steals of the draft. I think underdog's like 73, but that's a lot of sharper people that have been drafting for a while. What I know is pretty much what you're saying, and it's very simple. If Amari Cooper is in any way limited, this is the great thing about this, right? You could reach on CeeDee Lamb or Michael Gallup a little bit. I'm not saying start drafting Gallup at like 55 overall. That's crazy. But if you want to reach a handful of picks on CeeDee Lamb, even if Amari Cooper is at 100%, and we were wrong about that, and everyone was wrong about him being injured, and it was really just precautionary, CeeDee Lamb could still be a legitimate, top wide receiver 2, maybe even a wide receiver 1 this year. Would it be shocking if he overtook Amari Cooper as the wide receiver 1 in Dallas? No. So what I love about these type of spots is guys like CeeDee Lamb are not reliant on another guy on their team to be injured, to be better, right? Like, sure, if Amari Cooper doesn't play, CeeDee Lamb is going to be a wide receiver 1, especially in that offense. The offensive line is healthy. Dak Prescott's healthy. We know how that works. Just as if A.J. Brown were to go down, Julio Jones is going to absolutely annihilate opposing defenses. But both of them can coexist. So even if you take a couple extra, if you go up a couple of spots and grab CeeDee Lamb with, the anticipation that Amari Cooper might not be there for the start of the season or might be injured through parts of it, you're still getting a great pick no matter what. You just might have a league winner if Cooper goes down.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the most pass-heavy teams in the NFL. Their defense is absolutely atrocious. They draft all these defensive players, but what's a rookie 5th-round defensive player going to do for you? Not very much. So I'm very much in on this whole offense. Dak, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, as well as maybe even Blake Jarwin, who might have even more value if Amari Cooper was to miss some time. I am very confident in CeeDee Lamb, and he is going to start being drafted well ahead of Amari Cooper if this PUP news is very serious.
Well, this has been fun, man. We said we were going to go over like 30, 40 minutes, but it's been a good show. It's been a lot of fun. Nick, tell everybody where they can find your work and you at before we head out of here.
All right. Find me on Twitter at NotoriousFNTSY. I have 13,000 subscribers on YouTube, 1,000 followers on Twitter. So I look like look like a punk on there. So make sure that you guys hit that follow button. Just check out all the videos on here. I'm going to be posting on the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel. Subscribe to the Odds channel as well. I don't know if I'm going to have any videos on there, but just do it anyways. Fuck it. And thank you guys for having a good day here. And it seems like everyone enjoyed the live stream in the chat. So thank you guys for all coming out.
Yeah, overcome. Appreciate the feedback and the compliment. We're going to do what we can to keep putting out the best content around here and keep building the channel. Hit that subscribe, please. We're almost at 5,000. If you haven't done so, hit that thumbs up. Help boost us in the algorithm. It's all a numbers game here. We're fighting against the big YouTube overlords to get the algorithm to appreciate and notice us. Say, you know what? That's some good content out there. Hit me up on Twitter at Loughy_D, LOUGHY_D. Subscribe to the channel. And like Nick said, we do have content up on the odds channel, a ton of football stuff, baseball, Olympic betting, all of that great stuff. Check that out as well. And we'll catch you back here tomorrow for the next one on the Awesemo Fantasy Football Show. Peace.